stated by a Germantown resident. "I do remember bulldozers digging up a few bodies at Potter's Field site." Hello everyone, today we are here to discuss the Philadelphia African Burial Ground.
Turnout was light at Thursday night's Philadelphia Housing Authority meeting to discuss the future of the Queen Lane Development Project and Potter's Field in Germantown. Those who attended, however, had questions about how human remains from the historic African American burial ground there would be handled if discovered.
William Steinhardt had some answers. A geophysics project manager for Enviroscan Incorporated, a Lancaster-based geologic firm specializing in examining underground sites without excavation, Steinhardt will spend the next week at the site with a ground-penetrating radar device. He described the machine as a essentially baby buggy with an antenna and that the radar waves were not dangerous to humans. As for what Steinhardt expects to find, it won't be small artifacts. "A body size or bigger," he said, recalling a Virginia project in which slave cemeteries were discovered several years ago. "Like here, there were no tombstones to aid in the search. Anything smaller than that, I'm not going to be able to see."
Protocol for any discoveries. Joining him will be Mary Alfson Tinksman, Director of Preservation at Cultural Heritage Research Services, a Lansdale-based archaeological company. She explained that there are strict guidelines if bodies are discovered. If he's out there testing and he finds a row of graves where Potter's Field wasn't, we want to know that now, Alfson Tinksman said. If a discovery is made, we will stop the work, bring out an archaeology crew, excavate far enough down to confirm that something is there.
She even promised to coordinate with Pastor Nathan Hasty of Mount Moriah Church, which has hosted the community meetings. But the first goal, she explained, is to define the boundaries of the Potter's Field, or what's believed to have been used as an African American burial ground starting in 1755. The recommendation is to not build the development upon historical resources underground, especially if the cemetery is bigger than expected. If any bodies are found, guidelines say that even small bones should remain in the ground. Any remains that have to be excavated are buried, she added. The consultants promised to make an effort to identify any full burial sites they encounter using public records. They will also attempt to identify possible descendants and recover any details about bodies discovered during the initial building construction.
A community remembers Samuel Langford would know about other bodies. Langford, of the 300 block of W. Earlham Terrace, grew up in an apartment exactly where the high-rise building now stands. In 1950, his family lived in the second floor of a house on the site, but they were moved to make way for the public housing project 5 years later. "The only time I've seen any bodies or anything was when they started building the project itself," he said. "I do remember bulldozers digging up a few bodies and the casket was falling apart and stuff." Langford, who recalled the Potter's Field site being used as an informal playground, said he was told his house was the processing site before bodies were buried in the field. A driveway led into the center of the block as the cemetery opened onto Queen Lane.
"The most important thing for any person who lived in this neighborhood and grew up in this neighborhood is that it's treated with respect if, in fact, there are more bodies there," he said. "We would like to see that." Initial results of the archaeological survey are expected within the next 2 weeks. They will be submitted to the Historical Commission for review. Public Housing Authority officials said they will schedule another meeting if new information arises. Otherwise, May 10th will be the next monthly update session.
Message from attorney Michael Cord. Queen Lane Apartments. Historic Germantown Potter's Field as followed is addressed to Carol A. Ingold, Historic Preservation Planner, 11 City of Philadelphia, Philadelphia Historical Commission, 576 City Hall, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19107.
Re. Queen Lane Apartments, Historic Germantown Potter's Field. Dear Miss Ingold, I submit this correspondence in my capacity as an attorney, radio show host, president of the board of directors of Historic Eden Cemetery, and especially as a founding member of Avenging the Ancestors Coalition /ATAC. ATAC is a broad-based coalition of African American professors, historians, elected officials, lawyers, civic leaders, clerics, students, and grassroots activists. AITAC is the organization that led the successful battle to compel the federal government to memorialize the African descendants enslaved by President George Washington at America's first White House, known as the President's House, which was located at the current site of the new Liberty Bell Center. AITAC has hundreds of members and thousands of email contacts. And although its members are from all across the country, the vast majority are from the Philadelphia area, with many from Germantown.
For more information, log on to www.avengingthinsisters.com. I was recently informed that plans are underway to redevelop a portion of the Queen Lane Apartments at West Queen Lane and Pulaski Avenue in Germantown. This property is a Philadelphia Housing Authority development, and the proposed work on it is funded by Housing and Urban Development. And most important, because it is on the very site of the historic burial grounds known as Germantown Potter's Field, I respectfully request, consistent with the requests of local archaeological experts, that the city, at the very least, require an archaeological study well before the property is developed.
Germantown Potter's Field is a truly historic site because, in the mid-18th century, it was specifically designated for people of African descent as well as for non-resident strangers. In fact, it was established so that the existing lower burial ground, subsequently Hood Cemetery, could be maintained as a segregated cemetery. Because of its use as a burial ground for African descendants, it is obvious that human remains of African descendants would be uncovered there. Destroying or even damaging them through reckless development would constitute cultural desecration and cultural blasphemy. As a result, this site has unarguably powerful cultural and unarguably powerful archaeological significance and must be respected and treated as such.
Accordingly, I also respectfully request that AITAC be added as an additional consulting party so that our views, meaning the views of the area's African American community, will be officially considered throughout the entire process. Respectfully submitted, Michael Cord, Esquire, founding member, AITAC, 215-552-8751. Telephone number, 215-552-8751. Law Office of Michael Cord, 1 Liberty Place, 1650 Market Street, 36th floor, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19103. Copies of these emails were sent to Gene Cutler, Director, Bureau for Historic Preservation, Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission, 400 North Street, Keystone Building, 2nd floor, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 17120. Laura E. Beardsley, Executive Director, Germantown Historical Society, 5501 Germantown Avenue, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19144. 2225 Douglas Mooney, President, Philadelphia Archaeological Forum, Post Office Box 124, 90.
It is important that the Philadelphia African Burial Ground be preserved as a historical site. African American slaves are part of the fabric of the Philadelphia historical community. Let us respect their contributions to this historical past.